So today we're tackling something that I think a lot of language learners struggle with. That's the fear of speaking in another language.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We're diving into this YouTube video
Yeah.
called Stop Thinking, Start Talking from Easy English Talk.
Mm-hmm.
And the hosts are Jason and Julia.
Okay.
They break down why we get tongue-tied and offer tips to help find your voice.
What's fascinating is the fear of making mistakes is so universal.
Right.
Yet native speakers made mistakes all the time. And they just keep going.
That's exactly what I was thinking, too.
Yeah.
Like, the video points this out, and it kind of blows your mind.
Right.
They highlight those familiar anxieties,
Yeah.
like messing up the grammar, sounding silly, facing judgment. It's like our inner critic is taking over.
Exactly, yeah. A classic case of overthinking.
Mm.
We get so caught up in being perfect that we paralyze ourselves.
Right.
There's this cognitive overload we're translating in our heads, trying to predict every possible error.
Yeah.
Instead of just letting the language flow.
So it's not really about, like, lacking the knowledge. It's more about, like, getting out of our own way.
Precisely. That's where this idea of imperfect action comes in.
Okay.
Jason and Julia really hit the nail on the head with the analogy of babies learning to talk.
Okay.
They don't wait to master the grammar to start babbling.
Right.
They dive in and make a glorious mess of sounds.
Mhm.
Through that constant experimentation, they figure it out.
That's such a good point. And thinking about it, we all went through that phase of linguistic chaos.
We did.
But somehow we learned to speak.
Yeah.
Our native language is just fine.
Yes, and the science backs this up. Our brains are wired for language.
Okay.
They learn best through repeated exposure and practice, even if it's messy.
Got it.
In fact, making mistakes is a crucial part of that.
Wait, so those moments where we fumble a tense or mispronounce a word,
Uh-huh.
those are actually helping us.
Absolutely. Each error is like valuable feedback. It signals to your brain, hey, we need to work on this. It triggers a process of neural adaptation. It's like refining a skill. You practice, you make mistakes, you adjust, and gradually you get better.
Okay, that is seriously cool to reframe those embarrassing slip-ups.
Yeah.
So how do Jason and Julia suggest we put this imperfect action into practice? They have a ton of tips in the video.
They do. And one that really stood out to me was this idea of thinking in English.
Okay.
Not just translating in your head, but like actually narrating your daily life.
Okay.
Your thoughts, your grocery list.
Yeah.
All in your target language.
That sounds so simple, but I can see how that could make a big difference. You're
Yeah.
constantly immersing yourself,
You are.
even if it's just to yourself.
Exactly. It's about creating a mental landscape where English becomes the default mode.
Right.
Another tip they emphasized was embracing those mistakes.
Mm.
Instead of seeing them as failures, view them as stepping stones.
It's like shifting from a mindset of fear to a mindset of curiosity.
Exactly. And they
Wow.
even suggest practicing with yourself, talking to the mirror, describing your surroundings, anything to get comfortable with the sound of your own voice in English.
Okay, I gotta admit, talking to myself in the mirror sounds a bit out there, but if it works, I'm willing to give it a shot. I've always struggled with confidence when speaking, so any tip to loosen up is worth a shot.
Mm-hmm.
What else did they say?
Well, they talked about shadowing, which I know you do quite a bit. Have you found it helpful?
Oh, absolutely. Mimicking native speakers, whether it's from movies, podcasts, or even easy English talk, it
Mhm.
helps me internalize that natural rhythm,
Yeah.
intonation, like my mouth is getting a workout, learning the muscle memory for those tricky sounds.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a brilliant way to train your ear and your tongue. You're essentially absorbing those nuances through osmosis.
Right?
And the great thing is you can do it anywhere, anytime, on your commute, cooking dinner, even in the shower.
Okay, so we've got thinking in English, embracing mistakes, practicing solo, and shadowing. These are all actionable steps. But what about the mental game? How do we cultivate that inner confidence that actually lets us use these tools?
Well, that's where this concept of mindset shifts becomes crucial.
Okay.
It's not just acquiring knowledge and techniques. It's about transforming your beliefs about yourself as a learner.
Right. It's not enough to know the rules. You have to believe that you can actually use them. And that's where Jason and Julia offer some pretty powerful insights.
They do. They stress the importance of action over perfection. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment to start speaking, they just encourage you to dive right in.
Right.
Embrace the imperfections and trust that the confidence will follow.
It's like the classic, just do it.
Exactly. It's about shifting the focus from the fear of making mistakes to the joy of communication. Remember, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's to connect with others and share your ideas.
Right, it's easy to get caught up in like the mechanics of the language and forget about like the human element,
What?
why we're learning in the first place.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's where Jason and Julia's message really resonates. They remind us that language is a tool for connection, not a weapon of self-doubt.
I like that. They also emphasize comparing your progress to your past self, not to others.
Oh, absolutely.
It's so easy to fall into that trap of comparing ourselves to native speakers or more advanced learners
Yeah,
and feeling discouraged.
absolutely. It's crucial to remember that everyone learns at their own pace. The only comparison that matters is between where you are today and where you were yesterday. Celebrate those small victories, no matter how tiny they seem.
And they urge us to embrace discomfort, reminding us that stepping outside our comfort zone is where real growth happens. It's that feeling of like, this is hard, but I'm doing it anyway,
It is.
that really pushes us.
Exactly. It's like building a muscle. You have to challenge yourself to see those results.
Yeah.
And that discomfort is a sign you're on the right track. You're expanding your boundaries and becoming a more confident speaker.
So by reframing our mindset, we can actually make the learning process feel less like a daunting test and more like an exciting adventure.
Precisely. It's about embracing that journey with all its ups and downs, finding joy in the process of discovery.
And that's exactly what Jason and Julia did with their spontaneous speaking challenge at the end of the video.
Ah, yes, the 30-second challenge.
Yeah,
That's where things get interesting.
exactly. And we'll dive into the details of that challenge in part 2 of this deep dive. So stay tuned because there's more to uncover on our quest to conquer the fear of speaking.
Welcome back to our deep dive on conquering that fear of speaking.
We're picking up where we left off, exploring that spontaneous speaking challenge from the Stop Thinking, Start Talking video.
You know, it's one thing to talk about embracing imperfection, but another to actually, put it into practice.
Right, and that's exactly what Jason and Julia do in this challenge. They call it the 30-second challenge,
Uh-huh.
where they pick a random topic
Yeah.
and just talk about it for 30 seconds straight. No stopping, no overthinking, just pure, unfiltered expression.
It's like a mental sprint for your speaking muscles.
Exactly. And they even demonstrate it themselves.
Okay.
Julia talks about her morning routine,
Uh-huh.
and Jason describes his passion for playing the guitar.
Yeah.
It's not about being eloquent
Right.
or using fancy vocabulary. It's about keeping that conversation flowing,
Yeah.
even if it gets a little messy,
Uh-huh.
which, let's be honest, it often does in real life.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the beauty of it. It removes that pressure of perfection.
Right.
They're not aiming for like a flawless presentation.
Right.
They're just letting the words flow. And you can see them stumbling a bit, searching for the right word, but they keep going.
Yeah.
And that's like the key takeaway for us as learners.
Yeah, I think that's so important.
It's about building that resilience, that ability to like bounce back from those stumbles and keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
And the topics they suggest for the challenge are so relatable. Like
Yeah.
they encourage listeners to describe their favorite food,
Yeah.
talk about their daily routine, or even describe a dream destination.
Yeah, stuff we all know.
It's brilliant because it's things we all had experience with.
Right.
You don't need to consult a dictionary or a grammar book. It just takes away that mental block of like, I don't know enough vocabulary or my grammar's not perfect.
Right.
It's about tapping into that ability that we all have to communicate,
Yeah.
even if it's imperfect. And what I love about the challenge is that it's something you can do anywhere, anytime.
Right. You don't even need a partner. You don't need an audience. It's just you.
Right.
Just step outside your comfort zone a little bit.
Imagine you're in the shower and you just start describing your dream vacation for 30 seconds straight.
Yeah.
Or you're cooking dinner and you're narrating the steps in English like you're hosting your own cooking show.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
It might sound silly, but those little moments of practice can make a huge difference
I think so too.
in building your confidence and your fluency. And it's not just about the speaking, it's about training your brain
Yeah.
to think in English,
Exactly.
to access those words and phrases more readily.
Uh-huh.
It's like you're building a mental pathway.
Uh-huh.
And the more you use it, the stronger it becomes.
And then it's less of a conscious effort.
Right.
It becomes more automatic.
You know, as we're talking about this challenge,
Yeah.
I'm realizing it's not just about becoming a more confident speaker.
Right.
It's about becoming a more confident learner.
Exactly. Embracing that growth mindset.
Right.
Believing we can always learn and improve.
Right. It's about shifting that focus from the destination to the journey itself.
Yeah, and finding joy even when we stumble. You know, those imperfections are just stepping stones to fluency.
I like that. And that's a message that I think resonates beyond language learning.
Oh, for sure.
It's something that we can take
Yeah.
into all areas of our lives.
So giving ourselves permission to experiment,
Right.
to make mistakes, and to grow from those experiences.
Which brings us to Jason and Julia's final message of encouragement, which is so beautifully woven throughout the video. They remind us that we are capable, we are smart enough to learn English, we're strong enough to overcome these challenges, and we already have everything we need to succeed. The only thing left to do is just start talking.
It's a powerful message, an invitation to step into our power as learners and embrace the journey.
It's a reminder that fluency isn't a destination.
Right.
It's a process.
A continuous evolution.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, eager to break free from the fear of speaking? It means you have the tools, you have the knowledge, you have the support to achieve your goals. You can choose to step outside of your comfort zone, embrace the challenge, find joy in the journey, even with its imperfections, unlock your voice, and connect with the world in a whole new way.
Take a deep breath. Find a topic that inspires you and start talking. Even if it's just for 30 seconds, even if it's just to yourself, that's where the magic happens. That's where confidence grows. That's where fluency begins. And that's where the world opens up to you.
I don't know about you, but I am so pumped after diving into Jason and Julia's Stop Thinking, Start Talking video.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
It's amazing how, such a simple message can be so profound.
Right. I think the thing that resonated with me most was the emphasis on action. It's so easy to get caught up, planning and preparing, reading all the textbooks and all the grammar rules. But the real magic happens when you actually step outside your comfort zone and just start talking.
Jason and Julia just demonstrated it so well.
They did.
It's like they give us permission to let go of that fear of making mistakes.
Yeah, just embrace the messiness of learning.
Yeah, and that's such a liberating feeling.
It is. It's like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders.
So what does this mean for you, the listener?
Yeah.
Ready to take that leap of faith and start speaking? It means you have a choice. You can stay stuck in that cycle of fear and self-doubt, or you can choose to break free. Embrace the challenge. Discover the joy of communication. Remember, fluency is not a destination. It's a journey.
It is.
And it's a journey that's best enjoyed with the sense of adventure and a willingness to embrace the unexpected.
Yeah, you never know what's going to come out of your mouth.
Exactly. So what are you going to choose? Are you going to stay silent?
Or are you going to find your voice?
The power is in your hands and the world is waiting to hear what you have to say. Go out there and speak. Embrace those imperfections. Celebrate those little victories, and most importantly, enjoy the ride. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep learning, and keep talking.